and I'm the president of IIBA Nova Scotia. And we have an excellent speaker today, and also my colleagues are here. I think Biola most especially. I just want to welcome everybody before I hand it over to Biola, and I'm hoping for an interesting evening. I'll be in the chat. If you have any question, I'll try and manage the chat session for David. Just post your questions and we'll deal with it when he's done with his presentation. So good to have everyone here. Biola, over to you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ari. And hello, everyone. Um, Welcome to today's webinar. As Ari mentioned, my name is Biola. I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing of the IIBA Nova Scotia chapter. So maybe just as a means of brief introduction before we get started. So IIBA is a professional association that is dedicated to supporting lifetime learning opportunities for business and professional success in the business analysis um, career space. And then, of course, it's a global network. We have over 29,000 members and more than 300 corporate members and about 120 chapters spread across the world. And IBA supports the recognition of the business analysis profession and works to maintain the global standard for the practice and certifications in business analysis. So the session is being recorded and it will be available on our YouTube page after the webinar. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions in the course of the presentation, please type them in the chat, and when David is done with the session, we will deal with all the questions. And so the title of the webinar, as we might all be, let me try to move my slide. Okay. Yeah, so the title of the webinar, as we are all aware of, is 4 Habits for Effective Business Analysis, what the last 20 years have taught me. And this session is going to be taken by David. We're excited to have David take us through this. So David is a senior business analysis practitioner with over 20 years of real-world project experience in a diverse range of industries, from the financial services to the health, to automotive, to IT service management and retail. David has also led software development and as well as business process improvement projects in blended BA roles. David is a lead business analyst at ComputerShare, is also a certified Scrum product owner and product manager, and is passionate about teaching and developing business analysts, and is also very active in the business analysis community by sharing his industry and professional expertise. David has received a number of awards, including the 2022 Career Impact Award from the University of Toronto School of Continuing Studies. And so we are super excited to have David take us through this session. So having said that, I think I'll just pass this over to David.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for the very warm welcome and introduction. Glad to be here. And thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself and share some of my lessons learned over my 2 decades of experience in this wonderful dynamic field we call business analysis. So I'm just sending over the request to share my screen.
All right. Yeah, you got it.
Thank you.
Right.
Pardon me, folks. I've just picked up a tickle in the throat here. Don't know what happened, but I'll do my best to hop off or hop onto mute should I get a bit of a coughing fit here. So apologies in advance. I first want to provide a little bit more background about myself. I started out my journey into the world of work after having graduated from a local university here in Toronto with a French studies degree, and decided I would pursue a bilingual-based career, and ended up in the domain of call centers when I first started. So starting off as the customer service rep that we all yell at over the phone when we have a complaint, and worked my way over the course of 5 years to a call center manager role. But after that point, or at that point rather, is when I realized that this wasn't a fit for me and what I really wanted to do. And so through a friend of a friend, I joined a startup software development company, and they were looking for a trainer who was going to teach their end users on how to use the software product that they were delivering to clients. And the transferable skills that I had were those of training skills, teaching customer service reps how to handle calls, objections, etc., from customers. And so we agreed to a 3-month contract to start, and that 3 months turned into 5 years. For I was bitten by the BA bug, as the expression may be used, and ended up working through different aspects of the SDLC, then the full SDLC on various projects, and became an on-site lead for them, and the rest, as they say, is history. And I've done these 2 decades of BA work in both a full-time as well as a contract capacity. And I share that background with you before I start here to let any of you know that may be new or aspiring BAs, or even at potentially some midpoint in your career and are feeling a bit of imposter syndrome, are feeling a bit anxious or nervous about whether this is the right fit for me. Can I do this work? Do I have the skills to do it? I could tell you, as someone with a linguistics degree to start and no IT training at all over these 2 decades, other than a couple of Excel courses, you can have an effective career as a business analyst. It is absolutely possible. I am proof positive of that. Anything that you need can be learned on demand, and with the wealth of information we have available to us on the interweb, there's really no stopping us if we have a willingness and an ability to learn, and are willing to roll up our sleeves and have a strong work ethic to do the work at a level of quality. So if you do have that, I hope that resonates with you a little bit and helps assure you that you can have an effective career as a BA. Excuse me. So with that said, I found myself a few months ago reflecting on this journey that I've had over the last 2 decades as a seasoned BA, and I couldn't help but marvel at the myriad lessons that I had learned along the way. The role of the business analyst, I came to conclude, is a dynamic one, requiring a blend of analytical skills, interpersonal finesse, and an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. So here I'd like to share 4 pivotal lessons that I have distilled down that have shaped my career and continue to guide me even today through this ever-evolving business landscape. Pardon me. To me, one of the cardinal rules in the world of business analysis is to always question and verify. It's easy to get caught up in assumptions, often leading to misguided decisions. Early in my career, I learned the importance of untangling the web of assumptions that can plague a project. The business analyst is the last project team member that should assume anything. Now, we will, as I'm sure many of us have found, need to have an assumption take shape over the course of delivering a project, because the stakeholder can't confirm firmly what the decision is or what the route is we're going to take. And so assumptions can be there, but we should look to make sure that they do not linger, that they exist for only a short period of time, and we have them validated or invalidated as soon as we can. Being a business analyst isn't just about eliciting requirements. It's about understanding the underlying rationale, the why, the motivations, and challenging any preconceived notions. I recall a project where stakeholders were convinced that a particular feature was essential for success, and that feature was spell checker. Out of all the engineering and design functionality and capabilities we were going to build for them in our software product, one key stakeholder stood up and said priority 1 was spell checker. We were all naturally stunned as a project team as to why they would say that. But through a series of probing questions and a meticulous verification process, it became evident that this stakeholder's perceived necessity was based on outdated information. But had we simply taken it as the truth, as the fact, as to what they needed, we would have proceeded and we would have done things that are a higher priority truly as a lesser priority and not delivered as the client would have expected us to deliver. The key takeaway here that I want to share with you rather from this first habit is to approach every project with a healthy dose of skepticism. Don't be afraid to ask the tough questions and challenge the status quo. Regardless of where you are in your BA career journey, if you are a member of a project team, you have an equal seat at the table to ask your questions, share ideas, concerns, risks, issues, etc. And by doing so, by asking those tough questions and by challenging the status quo, you're not only going to uncover hidden insights, but you'll also ensure that any recommendations that you may be asked to provide are going to be grounded in solid and verified information. One moment, please. Now, for those of you joining us from the US or those that may be familiar with this in the US, each state has its own tagline, if you will. California is the Golden State, New York is the Empire State, the state of Missouri rather, is the Show Me State, because there's an old saying that says, I'm from Missouri, you'll have to show me. And that old saying embodies a very crucial mindset for any business analyst. In a world inundated with data and information, it's easy to be swayed by impressive presentations and persuasive arguments. To this, the stakeholders are not always going to be clear about their needs nor describing their pain points. However, seasoned BAs understand the value of demanding tangible proof. In my experience, this lesson hit home during a project where my fellow project team members and I had anticipated that our shortlisted set of vendors would not show us what we needed to see from their software solutions. As such, we adopted the show me the proof mentality. So instead of relying on the vendor's assurances that it would do what we needed it to do, we insisted that each vendor follow the same demo script that we had prepared in order to validate their claims. And so this demo script approach not only revealed potential pitfalls that were conveniently omitted in earlier sales pitches, but also allowed for necessary adjustments before a full-scale implementation. This experience reinforced for me the importance of being discerning, even when faced with seemingly convincing propositions. As a business analyst, it's crucial for us to be an advocate for what we now know and what we now call evidence-based decision-making. As we all know, the three most important things in real estate are location, location, and location. But if there's one lesson that has become really ingrained in my daily routine, it's the importance of documenting, and documenting some more. In the fast-paced world of business that we all live in, details can easily slip through the cracks if not captured and cataloged appropriately. Ultimately and essentially, writing things down frees your mind to do what you do best, which is to analyze instead of trying to remember everything. So whether it's meeting minutes, requirements, or project timelines, meticulous documentation serves as the BA's blueprint. Projects where seemingly insignificant detail from early discussions can end up being a game changer in the final implementation phase. Without thorough documentation, such critical pieces of information might have been lost in the shuffle. So documenting is not only going to aid us as BAs in the clarity of our communication, but also serve as a historical record. It's going to enable our project teams to track the evolution of a project, learn from past experiences, and ultimately avoid repeating mistakes. As a seasoned business analyst, I can tell you that I've learned that a well-documented project is a resilient project. And the last habit that I'd like to share with you today is that in the realm of business analysis, stagnation is a recipe for obsolescence. The technological landscape, business practices, and market dynamics are in a perpetual state of flux. Embracing the practice of never stop learning has been a cornerstone of my professional journey. Early in my career, I made a conscious decision to stay abreast of emerging technologies, industry trends, and also evolving methodologies. This commitment to continuous learning has kept me relevant, generated new ideas, and allowed me to converse better, all of which have opened doors to new opportunities and challenges. The digital transformation era that we find ourselves in, now being turbocharged by AI, has ushered in tools and techniques that were unimaginable a decade ago. As a business analyst, staying ahead of the curve is not just a luxury, but a necessity. So attending workshops, pursuing certifications, engaging with industry communities like the Nova Scotia chapter, excuse me, are all avenues that I have continuously explored to fuel my appetite for learning. And to that, I'd like to share a fairly recent example of this continuous conscious effort. When back in December of 2023, I went and pursued my Certified Scrum Product Owner designation. Not because I wanted to become a product owner, but working on a development squad with a product owner and supporting them made me realize that I didn't have the fullest understanding of what their role was about, and therefore I couldn't fully support them without fully understanding that. So I approached my line manager, asked for approval to support the costs for this weekend course to learn and obtain the certification. They agreed, and I did it and completed the designation. And at that point was 18 and a half years into my career. So never ever stop learning, folks. Take every opportunity you can. I now better appreciate what the product owner has to go through in terms of setting the product vision, the mandate, the ranking of epics and other ideas in terms of business priorities, and so on. And now I can better communicate with him and better understand how to support him in making our squad deliver that much more efficiently and that much more effectively. Pardon me. And that's another point I'd like to make in terms of supporting this never stop learning habit. If you do not know already, inquire within your employer to see if there are any funds set aside for training or professional development or continuous improvement, whatever the label may be in your organization. They do not always advertise this information, but may have funds set aside in certain department budgets to allow for team members and employees to continuously improve and professionally develop. And those funds are free. They're on the table. All we have to do sometimes is just ask for them, which I've done a few times in my career as well. So never ever stop learning, folks. Keep embracing these changes that are coming about. Again, whether it's emerging technologies, changing industry trends, and even evolving methodologies. So what have my 20 years as a BA shown me? That no two projects are identical. Each project is a canvas, and the lessons learned are the brushstrokes that shape the final masterpiece of your work products. Questioning assumptions, advocating for proof, meticulous documentation, and a relentless pursuit of knowledge form the bedrock of success in this dynamic field. By weaving these lessons into your everyday activities, you're not only going to navigate the complexities of business analysis, but also contribute to the growth and the resilience of the organizations that you serve. So continue your BA journey with curiosity, with skepticism, with diligence, and an unwavering commitment to lifelong learning. So, albeit short and sweet, I hope that some, if not all, this resonated with you and are habits that you'll be able to incorporate into your everyday activities. But for now, I thank you very much for the opportunity to introduce myself, and share these experiences with you, and open the floor to any questions. Harry, over to you.
Thank you so much, David. Thanks for the insight. Biola, um, I'm just checking if there are any questions.
Um,
Yeah, Yola.
yeah, I think that there's a comment from Deborah about agile pulling away from documentation.
And looking for me to either confirm that.
Okay, now we've got the question. Um, okay, so I could actually very well just make Deborah speak. Um, yeah, so Deborah, if you'd like to unmute, please.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't see how to mute or unmute. So yeah, working in a hybrid or agile environment, and from previous presentations I've received from IIBA, meeting minutes and things like that are kind of a waste to do anymore. I mean, you do need a way to confirm requirements with customers, but I'm in a new environment where agile documentation only at this point consists of user stories or maybe workflow diagrams to indicate the as is and to be states. So long requirements documentation is not being done anymore. Even well, the initial copy may be, but maintaining it's a nightmare because everything's in user stories and churning through the software that we use. So I'm wondering how people today manage maintaining the requirements because there's just no time to go back and update long requirement documents.
No, and I would agree. I think long requirements documentation have gone the way of the dodo bird. I used to write them and I started many moons ago. 50, 75-page BRDs were not unusual, but not in this day and age when we're trying to, deliver value more rapidly and doing it in short iterations, so time and time again, over and over again. But I do think, though, Deborah, there is a place for documentation because Agile, in truth, does not say or does not eschew documentation. It says that that it prefers rather more face-to-face collaboration over larger documentation. Where I work, which is dealing with employee share purchase plans, and in case anyone's not familiar with that concept, that is when your employer, in addition to your salary and benefits or whatnot, offers you as an employee shares in the company stock as part of your compensation package. And so my company administers those plans on behalf of other companies. And there is quite a complexity to some of these purchase plans or equity plans that exist out there in various companies in various regions of the world, and add to it, governmental legislation and other regional considerations. It can get very complex. So there is a need, depending on the context of the work you're doing and the products you're working on, to have some documentation, but it's about timing it accordingly, right? And that includes for us as business analysts as well. I encourage all my students to, consider visual models to substantiate or support the user stories and acceptance criteria they're creating, because oftentimes in those one or two sentences that are user story statements, one cannot possibly capture enough context, enough rationale to give the developers and testers and UI UX designers enough of an understanding at enough detail and specifics for them to know what they need to do programmatically to make it happen and come to life. So if the BA determines that a process model would help substantiate this, or a decision table, or a data dictionary, or what have you, then I always encourage my students and my BAs that I manage in my full-time work to do so, because it's only going to make the job easier for people to understand what those user stories are about. So as we all know, Agile is really tailored to the organization. It's a framework with guidelines and principles, and each organization chooses which guidelines and principles they want to follow, either all of them, a few of them, or a mix somewhere in between, and find that Agile rhythm that works for your organization, which includes the extent of documentation to be produced and when it should be produced. A bit of a long-winded response there, Deborah, but hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I'm coming in on a new job and there's been a lot of turnover, and the new BAs I'll be leading haven't, they're just doing requirements, but they don't understand the application. There's no current documentation. It's kind of a nightmare. But yeah, there does need to be something. It just needs to be time to do it. So
Yeah, and as a people manager, which is what I'm hearing you said you do or will be doing,
Yeah,
I think there's an opportunity for you in that leadership position to carve out time for
yeah,
that to happen. Like
absolutely.
we made a conscious effort, my fellow lead BAs and I, again at my full-time workplace, to dedicate some time to creating what we called a BA hub or a BA knowledge hub, which is a space and confluence with a series of pages within it that store all our information, which includes links to various domain knowledge, domain documentation, a list of domain experts that we can reach out to and tap on the shoulder for additional information or context. And it took some time and effort to build that hub, but now every BA on our team goes there when they have initial questions about what do I need to understand about this share plan versus the European share plan versus the Australian share plan. Who do I reach out to for further questions? Where is all our past training material located? We have links to free IIBA webinars there. So it took some effort and we carved out the time, but it's now been well worth it to have that knowledge hub available for them. So I would encourage you to consider something similar for the team that you'll be leading.
Yeah, definitely will do that. I had worked at this place previously about 7 years ago. We had that, and then since that contract ended to now, that I guess that fell by the wayside, or they didn't know it existed. So yeah, just need to reorient everyone.
Yeah, and it's not a one-time exercise or one-time effort. It's something that needs to be maintained regularly, right?
Yeah.
Every 3 to 6 months, go in and check for obsolescence, see what else we can do to improve it. So yeah, it's an ongoing maintenance, but it's well worth it. Thank you,
Great.
Deborah.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. Thank you, David. So there's another question from Chris. I would permit Chris to speak now. Yeah. Yeah, Chris, if you'd like to unmute and speak.
Just thought the text would be maybe something to think about on minutes. I know Agile kind of steers away from heavy documentation.
Chris, I'm sorry for interrupting you. There's a lot of background noise.
Oh,
I didn't catch your first few words. Would you mind coming closer to your microphone?
yeah, it's really just a quick little thought I had on minutes that sometimes can be important at the end of a meeting when there's a deliverable to track. You know, who has it? What is it? Just a thought.
No, it's a great point, Chris. Thank you for sharing. And with the what's the word I'm looking for? The transcription tools available in AI like Otter.ai, it makes that minute taking much easier to summarize the discussions, the decisions and action items and what have you. So if you have an opportunity to leverage any of those tools, that can make that work a lot easier. And that way, again, you have that historical record of what was discussed, what was ultimately, reached on in terms of consensus, who made that final decision or final blessing as the senior authority, and pass those minutes around for review. Give everybody 2 business days. That's what I usually do to check for any errors, omissions, or additions to the minutes. And after those 2 business days, whatever feedback is incorporated, if there is none, then the minutes become the official record of what took place and used as an input into your requirements package, whatever shape or form that may look like. Again, depending on an agile or waterfall project approach. Thanks again, Chris. Viola, do we have any other questions in the chat?
Oh, there's none right now. So we can have our questions in the chat, and then David can take them on.
Happy to answer any and all BA related questions, folks. Whatever's left of my brain, you're welcome to pick at it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me in the great old USA, living near the nation's capital, you can imagine the turmoil going on here.
Indeed.
Losing a lot of federal employees, our stakeholders are disappearing. People are coming into roles. They don't know anything about the project. So the BAs can brief them on it based on what they know. But just working with the stakeholders has taken on a whole new light at this point. And just any advice on that avenue?
Keep the light at the end of the tunnel in focus. You will be shedding some blood, sweat, and tears over the next little while working through this, but the lessons that your team will learn will be invaluable as they progress through the rest of their careers. I'll give you an example that I guess is the most adjacent example, Deborah, that I went through. Started my day every morning at 7 a.m., immediately getting on the phone with Romania to speak to our development team to find out how much they progressed with the work items we assigned to them before we went to bed, and then work through that so that we understood here locally in North America what was our next pieces of work we had to get done to keep things progressing. And then drove into work for 9 a.m., put in an 8-hour day, drove back home, which was about a 45-minute drive speeding on a toll highway. So that tells you how long it really would have taken to then get home, spend a little bit of time with my family, to then get back online and do some more work, get to bed for 9 p.m., wake up at 1 a.m. so that we could be online with Romania to let them know how we progressed, what work items we had for them, make sure they understood them, so that while we slept for the next 6 hours, they could work effectively, and then got up again at 7 a.m. and did that over and over and over again for 6 months straight. Painful, not a happy camper necessarily during that time, but learned a ton of lessons about how to organize work, how to address, conflicts and questions and concerns as effectively as we could, look to make decisions as quickly as we could so we can keep things moving. And it's one of the best experiences I have now looking at it in retrospect, Deborah, to be honest with you.
Yeah, good
But at
to
the time,
know.
at the time, it was painful. So again, not fun times for now in the present, but I absolutely assure you, when your team comes out of it, they will be that much more strong, they'll be that much stronger, that much more capable, and then watch out from there.
I feel a lot better now because everyone's local, relatively local here, so no one overseas for the customer base. So it's piece of cake for me compared to that.
Again, I think you'll still have some challenges, again, given the turmoil that's going on right now, and so many new people
Yeah.
coming on board, but
Yeah.
just keep the light at the end of the tunnel in front of you.
All righty, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So while we still await further questions, so maybe just a question I'd like to pose is,
Please.
yeah. So over the last 2 decades, I'm sure you've seen the business analysis profession evolve. And then with Gen AI and all of that, what skills do you think will be like most critical in the next, say, 5 years?
I'm going to say AI and data analysis skills, Biola. On the data analysis side, I'll start there first. Organizations are collecting more and more data as time goes on, right? There are petabytes of data out there about all sorts of things, right? Customer buying patterns, search patterns on websites, transaction data, all the, images and whatnot. There's so much data that companies want their teams to scour through and pull out meaningful insights, patterns, information ultimately. So building up a skill set on how to do that type of data analysis and understanding what it means to normalize data and have structured data so that these types of analyses can be done effectively and efficiently to provide that information so that senior stakeholders can make those most informed business decisions as rapidly as they need to make them in this day and age is going to be a well-valued skill set in the next 5 years. In terms of AI and specifically generative AI, I would say the skill that we need to learn is how to effectively craft prompts. Right? That is what generative AI is all about to this point in time, is having the tool in front of you, having the little prompt window, and basically telling the generative AI tool what it is you need, what it is you're looking for. It reminded me when this first came out of the old expression, garbage in, garbage out. So if you put in a vague prompt, you're going to get a very vague response, if not a severe hallucination, as they say in the world of AI. So I would encourage everyone to learn what the different components are of a prompt and understand how to craft and put together such prompts to make sure that you get the best output from this strategic collaborator that is generative AI, whether that's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whichever company's product you choose to use. See that tool as a strategic collaborator and not something that's going to do your work for you and all you need to do is copy and paste. So the better prompt you put in, the more refined the response or the output will be, which will require therefore less human tweaking, refinement, context setting, right? Only what the human mind can do. And then you'll be able to use that as an input into your work products or deliverables. So those would be the two skills over the next 5 years that we as BAs need to sharpen the pencil on as best as we can.
Awesome. Thank you very much, David. I see. Okay, Chris. I see a question from Chris. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just like I guess I'm just kind of new to it. Still in the process of reading it and consuming it, but in terms of applying it to new requirements analyses that come in, like, can we effectively utilize this as a framework? I'm assuming.
Sorry,
yes.
it is AI, Chris. Is that what you're referring to?
Oh no, the Babok.
The Babok. Yes. Go ahead then.
So just maybe how to leverage it in terms of
right,
because they say that no one core concept takes precedence over another, and they don't seem to be sequential. They say they're also standalone.
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct, Chris. In the core concept model, the 6 core concepts are I wouldn't say interchangeable, but they are at the same level of purpose and value. Every project has needs. Those needs come from a set of stakeholders. Those stakeholders are looking for change. That change comes in the form of solutions. Those solutions need to provide value and so on. So yes, they're very much at the same level, sort of like ball bearings rolling around on the floor there. They all kind of float at that same level of importance and value. The best way to look at the Babok is as the name or the acronym suggests, Chris, which is a body of knowledge. Do not take it as a novel. Do not take it as a set of prose. I tell my students all the time, if you have trouble sleeping, read the Babok for 10 minutes and you'll be out cold. It's not meant to be anything more than a technical publication that represents how the IIBA has organized the thinking around the profession of business analysis into these knowledge areas, which effectively you could call chapters of the book. They could have done it a few other different ways to organize all these tasks and techniques and what have you into different knowledge areas. So be it, but this is the way they've chosen to do it as a version 3, and that's what we should take it as. It's simply a body of knowledge. Understand what are the kinds of tasks we should be thinking of when we're doing requirement solicitation activities on a project or solution evaluation activities or whatever other ones are represented by whichever knowledge area. Does that help clarify things?
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. Viola, anyone else with any questions?
So going through the chat now, and no, there's no other question.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe while we are still awaiting questions, I could also pose one.
I've got one if we're just
okay. All right, please go ahead, Chris.
Interested in how. It's one thing I did think of myself. I'm restricted. Work for a company that manufactures military hardware.
Aha.
So we have some firewall considerations and lockdowns. So unfortunately, AI isn't easily available. But how I guess it's Deborah that's using Copilot. How are you leveraging it? It's one thing I've realized that I need to do. Like just anyone that operates within the technology-based framework, we have to adopt AI and learn how to use it and learn how to leverage it. So how do you use it?
So I use it in 2 different ways. One, within my full-time workplace, we've established Copilot because we are a Microsoft shop. And so Copilot has been established and linked to all our internal knowledge hubs, repositories, and whatnot, so we're able to leverage all of our intellectual property when we do those prompts to help us do our work. So that would be my suggestion, is to find out what the plans are within the military unit that you work for, as to whether they're going to incorporate their own installation of AI, whichever tool from whichever company is. And once it's in your enterprise, it can be locked that it stays within your enterprise, that it does not go out and search the web. It does not, penetrate that security periphery, and only uses the IP that's available to you in the military, which I can imagine is substantial. So that's the one thing. The other thing is to use it personally. And when I use it personally, and I am accessing the web, as part of the input I'm looking for it to use to create its responses, I make sure that I do not breach any confidential information. I don't use people's real names. I don't use companies' real names. I change everything to Acme like Looney Tunes did, right? And just keep everything generic there, and then pose, the questions, or ask for a certain thing to be created or whatnot, and do it accordingly. So you just have to be extra careful and diligent, and not just type away.
Got it.
I encountered something interesting in using Copilot. A contract I was on went under protest, and it was kept secret as to why. But recently I queried Copilot for the status through the Government Accountability Office, and it gave me the answers I was looking for, which it probably should not have.
Ah,
That's
So
where I've got to get. I don't even know how to query it, because we haven't been able to use it. So I'm like, after this,
Yeah.
I'm watching
I
YouTube
just
videos.
did the company name, the status of the protest for the date of the year that it was protested on, and it came out with all this information. The more I asked it, the more I got. So someone's leaked something inadvertently, I guess, through GAO, the government. I guess, I don't know.
and just as a point of clarification, Chris, generative AI is built to be conversational. So it's not as if the format of the prompts have to be so technical or specific, or in some sort of, specific convention or standard. It's just everyday English that you would use to converse with it, and just, again, put in the various components like rationale, what's the ask, what's the output you're looking for. Like you said, there's many tutorials out there that'll teach you how to craft these effective prompts. Now that it's been out for as long as it has, there's a whole plethora of tutorial content out there on how to do it. And my suggestion would be to practice extremely generically in your own personal free use of ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever you're able to get your hands on. Start learning and seeing how it works and how to iterate with it, and then take those lessons in with you if and when it gets established within your military unit.
Got it.
No. See AI or generative AI, folks, very much as an iterative thing. Don't try and nail it all necessarily in the first prompt, right? Ask as much as you can with as much clarity as you have, and based on the response it gives you, then iterate, refine, ask a little more, add on, bolt on some more information, or bolt on another output that you're looking for, and iterate over and over and over again after multiple prompts until you get to a final product that you can use again to finally refine and be more precise using the human mind.
So we've also got a comment from John, and it says, those scenarios are why my organization has AI tools locked out for now. So much private information and low risk tolerance.
Understood. Yep. Not every organization has the same risk tolerance. That's absolutely spot on. So not everyone will be able to benefit from that. That's fair.
Right. Well, so while we still await further questions on the chat, so just a little shift towards change management. So one thing, a common challenge I've faced on the various projects that I've worked on is resistance to change. So what strategies have worked best for you? when dealing with resistance to change during the projects you've worked on?
I take out the baseball bat, Viola. I'm kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just teasing. I hope everyone's laughing because I was completely joking. No. What I look to do is really understand the reason behind the resistance to change. The same premise rather, as to the point I made about the habit about understanding the underlying rationale for the needs in order to establish the actionable requirements. It's the same premise here when it comes to resistance to change. There has to be a reason behind it. So if we look to use our critical thinking skills, our analytical skills, our probative questioning skills to understand the underlying rationale behind the resistance, then we can start to chip away at it with facts, with truths, because in a lot of cases, there are half-baked thoughts, there are assumptions, there are preconceived notions that the stakeholder is holding firm on, hence the resistance. And you can just chip away at that and break that down once you understand the underlying rationale and context behind the resistance. And with that, I would say take the approach that I call kill them with kindness. Be overly kind, overly generous, willing to assist. How can I help you through this? Is there some information you need? Kill them with kindness, and you'd be surprised the kind of response you'll get back.
Thank you very much, David. So there's a
Certainly.
question from Santosh. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I would allow Santosh to speak now. You can please unmute.
Hi, thank you very much. Just a query about it, because the AI has been significantly used, and there are lots of information being generated and the information being gathered, and I'm wondering that in the future there might be the highest number of staff turnover, thinking about also back in the United States, that um, how we can overcome with these challenges, because the AI, the information technology has been changing as the accelerating change, and we have to keep up with the change, and AI is taking over human power. Then how we can overcome with that and making sure that we create more avenue for creating more value, and thinking of how human resources can exist still the same, but also more people are employed. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Santosh. So I echo the sentiments of many in the BA community that say that a BA that knows how to use AI will replace a BA that doesn't. So if you are a BA that knows how to use AI and use it in a collaborative fashion to be more productive, provide better responses and what have you, then you increase your value in the workplace versus a BA that chooses not to do anything with BI, and they are the ones that will slowly be replaced and phased out, but it won't be by machines, it'll be by BAs who know how to use AI. I think the work that we do it is still too human based to be replaced by AI, right? AI is not going to get into the minds, at least not yet, unless some, past horror movies come to life. In getting into our minds to be able to read our minds and use that as a knowledge source from which to create their responses to our prompts. So we're still going to need to have that human understanding, that human context, and appreciate the human condition, which is stakeholders will be frustrating at times. They will not share information. It's not because they're holding back, it's they just don't know how to communicate it. And it will need a fellow human to understand how to iteratively and progressively elaborate that information out from them, which is, one of the key skill sets we bring to the table as BAs. So I'm not concerned about us being replaced by machines. I'm concerned for BAs who choose not to do anything with AI, thinking that it's beyond them or whatnot, because they will get replaced by BAs that do know how to use it. Because companies, I think even more now, are going to look to do more with even less. Because AI is available, right? Those roles that can be replaced, like data entry roles, contact center roles and stuff like that, those will naturally be replaced by AI or in the foreseeable future, but other roles will not. And if we can know how to use AI to help implement those technological capabilities for those roles that will naturally be replaced, then we will add that much more value and be able to be more valuable resources for even bigger and better projects as time goes on. So again, a bit of a long-winded response, Santosh, but hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much, David.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you, Santosh. So it looks like we're out of questions right now.
Okay. Well, thank you again once again, folks, for having me here to again introduce myself and share some knowledge and some experience. Hopefully it was helpful and resonated with you, and I hope our paths cross again one day.
Thank you so much, David.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Bye now.
Bye.